Coach Smith. Love the game. 24/7 here to talk to you about the NCAA paying out 2.8 billion to former athletes, starting back as far as 2016 up to 2024. Want to just talk a little bit about that today, but before we talk about the NCAA agreeing with the lawsuit from Claudia Wilkin, we'll get into that, but I want you guys to be sure you subscribe, right, to Love the Game 24/7 with Coach Smith, right, your favorite coach, right, on my YouTube. I appreciate it. Getting my live going up on my Facebook as well. Let me get that squared away. I want you guys to join in with me on my live on Facebook. As I'm live right now as well on YouTube, breaking down some of this information that came out on Friday. For a lot of you guys may have missed that, but as I said, I'm live on Facebook and YouTube right now. And be sure you guys hit that subscribe button and join with Coach Smith on my YouTube. Love the Game 24/7. I appreciate it. And be sure you also help me get to my 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. That goes for YouTube. On Facebook, be sure you partner up with Coach Smith. If you're not on YouTube, but you're on Facebook, get over to my YouTube channel and subscribe. Help Coach Smith get to those 1,000 subscribers. But today, like I said, I just wanted to come on here and just kind of talk a little bit about the breakdown of this agreement that Claudia Wilkin, federal judge, gave that decision. It had been delayed for quite some time, giving the NCAA some time to come up with some decisions about the roster. That pretty much is why the decision has been delayed all this time with federal judge Claudia Wilkin, giving the NCAA and the schools. It was the Power Five, but no longer the Pac-12 is alive and well and kicking anymore. So, it's the four conferences, right? Big Ten, Big 12, SEC, and ACC, to come up with a decision on rosters. And so, of course, there's going to be some pros and cons to this decision that came down from Judge Claudia Wilkin. Just a quick note for some of you all who may not know, which I didn't know as well, as I've been reading this lawsuit and going over it a little bit. She was also the judge about 11 years ago, from what the article that I read stated, that she was with Ed O'Banion, former basketball player, collegiate basketball player. I think he was played at UCLA. Back with I think they had a guard. Last name was Dollar. I think he was related to Creflo Dollar, well-known pastor out of Atlanta. Had a little guard. Played at UCLA with Ed O'Banion and his brother. But Judge Claudia Wilkin was also the decision maker during his lawsuit, that initial lawsuit where Ed O'Banion said that this is where the name, image, and likeness was developed about 11 years ago. I didn't realize it was that long ago, 11, 15 years ago, where Ed O'Banion was saying that it's unfair, the money that college athletes help generate, especially in football and basketball, don't get a share of the multi-millions and billions of dollars that are generated in collegiate athletics. But like I said, mainly through football and basketball. There are some schools who don't have football, like my institution where I work here. It's the only state, University of North Carolina, that does not have football. So basketball is a big sport in North Carolina, and so is football. Baseball is good as well, and track and field. But like I said, with this new lawsuit, or the not new lawsuit, but the decision of this lawsuit, because it's not new, Claudia Wilkin came down with a decision on Friday, and many of you may not have heard. I know it was a lot of talk on Saturday morning on ESPN of the decision, and like I said, it's going to be some pros and cons, but I absolutely, definitely agree as a former collegiate athlete, that collegiate athletes should be able to um, share in the money that's generated, especially when you're talking like major, um, some major schools. Now, I played Division II, but they were, when you're talking like North Dakota State, North Dakota and South Dakota State, South Dakota, some of the much bigger schools in our conference, Mankato State, St. Cloud, those bigger schools, um, they generate a lot more money, and they generate quite a bit of money in Division II football. Um, of course, not to the level of Division I, but they did generate considerable amount of money as a Division II program when I was playing, and so and definitely, the blood, sweat, and tears that collegiate athletes put in, no matter what sport they play, especially when you're talking, collision sports like football, and even, lacrosse and different things like that. But of course, you got to look at the sports that generate a lot more money, all right, are going to benefit the most. I appreciate you guys joining me out there on YouTube. Appreciate it, just talking about the lawsuit, just kind of breaking down some of this, what's happening with this 2.8 billion that the NCAA is going to have to pay out, not the colleges or universities, the NCAA, for the money that the billions of dollars that they made, they're going to have to pay back to some of those collegiate athletes who participated. Like my son was in college from 2015 to 2019 playing Power 5 college football at Boston College. So he falls into this settlement. However, now, as I shared with him and several of his former teammates, you got to make sure you file your claim. So if you are a collegiate athlete or a parent of a collegiate athlete during that 2016 to now, your athlete will share in that pot of money, that 2.8 billion that the NCAA will have to pay out to those athletes who file a claim. And so it's going to be paid out over a 10-year period. Of course, I think some can decide. Well, I don't think they'll decide a lump sum on that sub the 2.8 billion that the NCAA has to pay out. They're gonna pay that out over 10 years. From my research and for what I've seen, they're looking at football players getting possibly awarded. When you're talking the football players, it was about 14,000 football players you're talking about during that time frame that was playing major college Power 5 football, and is one example. And so as a football player, you're potentially going to get 135,000. And I believe some of the basketball players, let me just pull up my notes here because I have it up on my computer. It was given a breakdown as to what some of these athletes could potentially look to be paid over a 10-year period. And I believe it for like the women's basketball, it was going to be about 35,000 each for the women in basketball, as an example. But for the collegiate men in football and basketball, because they make most of the money with the NCAA and athletics, they were looking at getting a payout about 135,000 over a 10-year period. So that's like $13,500 per year that these athletes, if you file your claim, okay, and once again, this is Love the Game 24/7 on YouTube, and I'm on Facebook, and I'm just sharing this information because I know some of you out there may be a parent of an athlete, or you may be a former athlete and you played during this time frame that I'm speaking of, and you need to be sure you file your claim. And I believe they named the MLB president, part of the organization. He was named the CEO, and I'm going to give you information on how you can. It's called college athlete compensation. Let me pull up this here for you guys, to know. So you can share it if you know an athlete who potentially played during that time frame that you want to be sure you share this information with. Okay, so you can put your comments, questions, those things, and I'll try to answer them. But I just want to get through this and get you get some information out to you. But I thought it was great news to hear, that they're going to pay out to these athletes. It's a huge deal with this settlement. But like I said, federal judge Claudia Wilkins, she handled the Ed O'Banion decision about 11, 15 years ago. And that's where we get the term NIL, name, image, and likeness from, because of the lawsuit he filed during that time. This lawsuit got started with a former collegiate swimmer, George House, I think is his name, or Greg House. Sort of a similar situation. So here are some key settlement dates. The following are significant dates related to the implementation of the settlement. June 6, 2025, settlement was approved. Settlement related to NCAA rules are effective as adopted by the NCAA Division I board on April 21st, 2025. June 11, 2025, NIL Go Portal launches. The Go Portal launches. June 15, 2025, opt-in deadline for non-defendant schools to fully commit to revenue sharing, because that's another thing that came with the lawsuit decision with federal judge Claudia Wilkins. They're going to pretty much have a salary cap of about $20.5 million per school when you're talking to Division I programs to divvy out to all the sports, right? And so, of course, it's going to possibly, like some people say, it may not be. I know I just watched the softball. Texas Tech lost in the Women's College World Series, Softball World Series, but one of their pitchers, I think she has like $1 million NIL deal. There's the quarterback at Michigan is said to have a $10 to $12 million NIL deal. So with these new guidelines that came down from Judge Claudia Wilkins this Friday, she's pretty much saying that every school, every major Division I program, you can have up to a $20.5 million budget to pay out to all of your collegiate athletes for NIL opportunities. Now, they could have NIL deals outside of the university. Okay, college athletes can still earn additional NIL money. But it has to be one of the key factors about having a NIL deal outside of the school paying you part of that $20.5 million cap that they have. It has to be a legitimate NIL opportunity where it's, it's for, even if it's an alum from the university, it has to really show that it's for business opportunities. So if I'm a car salesman, I'm having such and such athlete in my area that I'm an alum for or from, try to, he's helping me generate or she's helping me generate car sales because of their personality and trustworthiness or whatever the case may be. And I'm using their likeness, maybe even if I have them come in and sign autographs, because I want to get more foot traffic of people coming in and looking at cars, and they may potentially, buy a vehicle because I had, several athletes, male and female athletes there that I have a NIL deal with that's outside of that $20.5 million cap that my university has that I'm an alum of. But if I'm a car dealer, right, in that area, I want to use these athletes' name, image, and likeness to sign, hats, jerseys, T-shirts, to generate foot traffic to help me sell more vehicles. So you got to be able to legitimize that. So, and as I said, June 15th, I mentioned that with the opt-in deadline for non-defendant schools to fully commit to revenue sharing. July 1st, 2025, first date of direct institutional revenue sharing payments to student athletes. Schools could have started doing that as of July 1st, 2025. But I also read in my research where it was either by July 1st or when the decision came down, that they would start making payments. And so, with the decision coming down this past Friday, um, it also said in the rules and the stipulation they have 45 days now that the decision has been made by federal judge Claudia Wilkin of the settlement agreement to pay that 2.8 billion and also the 20.5 million dollar salary cap for the 2025-2026 athletic season that's getting ready to come up. They can start making payments to athletes now as of July 1st if they want to, but I think they're going to start making these payments by July 15th. Or they have 45 days from the decision. So some payments may be made here by July 15th, or if not sooner. It's just up to each institution. But they can start making payments on that $20.5 million cap that Judge Claudia Wilkin gave the decision when she brought down the decision. But the new enforcement organization, so it won't be the NCAA enforcing this. This is why a lot of people think other lawsuits are going to come because of this, because some other things, and also, like I said, some roster spots is going to this salary cap situation that dealt with roster situation is going to hurt some young men and women who walk on, because now you won't have as many walk-ons. However, so that means some of the guys who did earn a full or partial scholarship to play their sport at the university will probably get some playing time, right? So this is why some of you young athletes got to be very strategic. You parents got to be very strategic about where your student athlete, your young male or female athletes decides where they're going to participate in their collegiate sport, right? Be real. Thought-provoking, do your research, do your visits. That's why it's important to do the camps during the summer, do your visits, do those things, and really try to make sure you get a good idea. Is this where I feel that I'm going to get some ample playing time? I'm going to get developed. And so, a lot of people say, well, it's just taking away the amateurism of collegiate sports. No, I don't. I don't think just because they're getting paid money is taking away this amateurism of collegiate sports. I disagree with that. And the reason why I say I disagree with that, it's not the NFL, it's not the NBA, it's not MLB, it's not NHL. Okay, there's a big difference with college players, okay, and pro players. You can take your best collegiate team in football or basketball, and they're not going to be the NBA team. Okay, maybe one time, 9 times out of 10, the NFL or the pro team will beat the best collegiate team. Okay, so the talent level, when we're talking about on-field talent, college sports is still amateur sports, and just because they're making some money off their name, image, and likeness is not making it pro sports. They're not pro athletes. It's just that, hey, they're collegiate athletes. They're generating a lot of income or revenue for the NCAA and the particular college or university that they're attending. So they do deserve a right to do that, because some people don't understand when the NCAA rules were if you're on full scholarship, you could not have a job. Someone like myself, when I was in college, I lost my father in high school to cancer. And so I had a single mom, just like many athletes, single parent, who couldn't send money to help on a regular basis. So I always made sure during the summers and the holiday breaks when I could work, when I wasn't in school, I made sure I had a job somewhere. But that money, that little bit of money that I made during the summers and during the Christmas break wasn't enough to take care of me during 9 months being in college. Okay, just plain and simple, just being real. Okay, I couldn't earn enough money during the summertime to help me make it I'm a Florida kid that went to school in Iowa, and you got to go where you can go. Hold on one second, guys. Get some more light. You got to go play your sport wherever you can get that scholarship to help take care of that bill, that tuition bill and that housing and meal plan bill. So you got to go where you can go to participate. and play and get your education paid for. So, I didn't have clothes for the winter in Iowa, growing up in Florida. So when I did work, I used that money to make sure I had a proper coat, right? During the 4 years that I was in college in Iowa. But hey, in school, you need clothes, period. Not just a jacket, but other winter clothes and things like that. So I never made enough. My mom did what she could do. You know, she didn't let us go without. Hey, we made it, we survived. But if I'm if I was at a Division I school, we know kids were always getting paid some sort of money. All right, don't be fooled and think that athletes weren't getting some sort of money under the table. Um, I know in my years I've always heard and knew of guys that played major college football that were getting some sort of money. It was just on a, it was kept quiet. It wasn't, um, it was talked about amongst athletes, okay, and we just had enough sense to know we weren't going to be out there blabbing our mouths about it. There was, then there were times where some guys, because of whatever the situation was at their institution, maybe they got thrown off a team or whatever, and they may have blew a whistle about they were getting paid money because they were upset about how they got dealt with, and that's understandable. Um, but but otherwise, there was always not just stories. We knew legitimate situations where I knew of guys that played major college sports that were getting paid some money. All right, plain and simple. Now it's just, when you look at those teams in college sports, especially when it comes to football and basketball, and they're loaded with talent, you best believe that somebody is making some money. They wouldn't have gotten all those players to be loaded in at Alabama under Nick Saban um, if they weren't getting paid some sort of money, right? And also knowing that going to certain schools, when it came to, like Miami or Florida State or, USC, Texas, or whatever it may be, certain schools, Penn State, Notre Dame, you name it, okay? Um, when you're loading up some of the talent, and there's a lot of talent around the country to go around, okay, right? So you got many more colleges than you do pro teams, all right? And so that's why I said it's still amateur sports, um, and you got to compete, but you got to realize all these college teams, because there's so many teams, they don't have, um, all the talent just on one team. All right, it gets spread out. It gets spread out pretty fairly, right? A lot depends on how well you can coach, how well guys are going to prepare and make sure they come to play and come perform in their sport, especially when it comes to football and basketball. But I think talent is pretty even. I think in some sports, when it comes to like baseball, even sometimes in basketball, you can get some talented guys at D2 level that probably could play Division I, and that Division II team could may beat or give that Division I team a run for their money in basketball. I think sports like basketball and baseball, the talent level is kind of close, and that's why you will see even right now with the College World Series going on, you see some lower level Division I programs giving some top level Division I programs either beating them or giving them a run for their money. Now in football, when you have your top 20 teams, I mean, your top 20 Division II teams wouldn't do well against the top 20 Division I programs. Even in FCS, your top 20 FCS schools, they'll compete, of course. But your top 20 Power 5 schools are, they're Power 5, they're who they are for a reason. And so that's why I say it's still amateur sports. Just because they're getting paid some money and they're getting the now benefit for the money that they generate these institutions, your scholarship, man, you're making money for that school maybe 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 times your scholarship, right? And all you got was just that 4 years of that scholarship when you made maybe 5, 10 times more for the institution because you were at a major Power 5 Division I program during your time, and you didn't reap any of any of that money. So that's why this $2.8 billion is a big deal. And as I said, they have, I saw here where Major League Baseball executive Brian Seeley, as the CEO of the new enforcement organization called the College Sports Commission. And that was announced Friday night after Federal Judge Claudia Wilkin came down with her decision. So he will help or be the overseer, and not the NCAA, on how these colleges manage their $20.5 million cap. Okay, go do your research. This is what Coach Smith and Love the Game 24/7 is all about. Getting out front and getting information and trying to help break it down. But there's a difference between that 2.8 billion and the 20.5 million. The 2.8 billion is the NCAA paying back money to those athletes who potentially lost the opportunity or were barred or were not given the opportunity to earn money off their name, image, and likeness. That's what this is. So they're going back to 2016 up to 2024 for those athletes who file a claim that they will receive approximately somewhere around about $135,000 will be paid out over a 10-year period, to these former athletes who didn't get the opportunity to, like the athletes are able to do today. Over the past few years, were able to make, so those athletes missed out on that opportunity. So, but they are being granted to file a claim, right? So that they can reap something, at least something. Of course, this is better than nothing, because they're still not totally getting back money that they probably could have earned. Okay, they definitely could have earned more than $135,000. Okay, but this is what the agreement came down to, and of course the NCAA wants to be able to make those payments. So that's why they're doing over 10 years, so that money can still draw some interest to be able to pay these young men and women. But like I said, it's going to be the men's basketball and football players who will get the bigger piece of the pie. And then women's basketball, I think they said probably get somewhere around $35,000 per athlete, Power 5 athlete. And so that's the Pac-12, Big 10, Big 12, SEC, and ACC, Power 5. That's the 2.8 billion. The 20.5 million is for, of course, we don't have the Pac-12 anymore. It's the Big 10, Big 12, ACC, and SEC. And so Seeley, Major League Baseball, Brian Seeley was named the CEO for the College Sports Commission. And you can go to the College Sports Commission. If you Google it, you can go to their website as an NCAA athlete who played. It doesn't matter what sport you played, right? You can get a break. You can get you can put in your NCAA ID. All right, if you still remember what your NCAA ID is, okay, that's one way of being able to go to that site as a former athlete if you're no longer playing college right now during that time period, and you can get an estimate of what your payout may be over the 10 years. They'll give you an estimate for whatever sport you played if you go out to that site. And so be sure you have your NCAA ID to go out there and file your settlement. And I went out to there, let me pull it up, College Sports Commission, and I'll tell you more about exactly what you former athletes should be doing. But I know your NCAA ID is definitely something you want to have available, but you want to Google College Sports Commission, all right? collegesportscommission.org, because it's a nonprofit. College Sports Commission. This is in not the NCAA is doing this. They're giving the judge, Federal Judge Claudia Wilkin, came down with forming this organization for this website, this organization with Seeley, MLB executive, to handle the payouts. And well, not the payouts. NCAA will do the payouts for the 2.8 billion, but for the $20.5 million salary cap situation, He's helping those schools. He's going to be monitoring those schools. But you also, I do believe, also, yeah, you do have to go to College Sports Commission to do the 2.8 billion as well. Let me go. Let me go here. All right, about the House settlement. Here we go. So House was uh, the collegiate swimmer who brought forth this lawsuit. Um, and so for you athletes, be sure, like I said, all you athletes, you can go you can go to the College Sports Commission website and figure out exactly. Um, Now they do have a website for student athletes seeking more information on past damages. Should go to collegeathletecompensation.com. Collegeathletecompensation.com. That's where the former athletes who want to find out how to get their payout over the next 10 years. And so, but collegeathletecompensation.com for former athletes. For current athletes, you go to that collegesportscommission.org, right? So College Sports Commission for current athletes and former athletes. If you want to get to collegeathletecompensation.com, you can get to it from there as well. But I'm telling you now on YouTube and Facebook, if you go to collegeathletecompensation.com, and in the top right, they have a blue button, and in black writing, claim your share. And as I said, if you go to collegeathletecompensation.com and get to the home page, in the top right in blue, it has claim your share in black letters. And what you do is when you click on claim your share, it's going to ask, you three things, a required field that you got to click on. The first choice is I would like to submit a claim form or update my contact or payment information for the college athlete NIL litigation house settlement. That's the first one you can click on. Required field you can click on. Or the second field you could click on is I would like to submit a claim form or update my contact or payment information in the Hubbard versus National Collegiate Athletic Association settlement. And then the last one is I would like to see my estimated compensation. So that's the third choice, or third required field. So for you former athletes, you should do all three. You should go through. You should submit a claim form and update your contact payment information for the college athlete NIL litigation, the house settlement for the 2.8 billion. But there's another one. I would like to submit a claim form or update my contact or payment information in the Hubbard versus National Collegiate Athletic Association settlement. You should do both, right? So go in and go to collegeathletecompensation.com and click on claim your share in the top right corner, and be sure you submit a claim for both of those, for the house settlement and so also for the Hubbard versus National Collegiate Athletic Association settlement. And then the third choice, you can go back in and look at what your estimated compensation would be. But you need to do that right away, you former athletes who did not get an opportunity to make money through NIL opportunities when you were in college. So be sure, right? collegeathletecompensation.com for former athletes that want to file your claim. You go to that site. And like I said, for you current athletes, you can go to collegeathletecompensation.com as well. Or more importantly, you should go to collegesportscommission.org, O-R-G, and look through. Parents, you should do that as well if you got a collegiate athlete, because there's a lot of information that you want to read through about how your student athlete may potentially, where they're going to fall with that $20.5 million cap that they're going to be giving out to all athletes. And of course, most of that money is going to go to the football star players and basketball star players compared to other sports, right? Football and basketball, leads the way. And then, of course, And when I say football and basketball, I'm talking football for, the men, and basketball, men's basketball. And then I think it falls in line with women's basketball after that. And then usually baseball falls in there, right? It's usually like the hierarchy, football, men's basketball, women's basketball, and then usually baseball, um, softball and volleyball and all of them kind of run neck and neck. But like tennis, golf, and track and field, they're on the low end, of course, because when you go to track meets, you're not seeing you know 20, 30,000 people, right, at track meets or a tennis match. So it's not like a huge amount of revenue coming in via ticket sales and all those things when you're talking about a football and basketball arena, right? With men's football, of course, and when you're talking um, men's and women's basketball. For some of those schools who have a power hockey program, hockey may fall in there somewhere around, you know, probably not with baseball, maybe more with softball, somewhere in there. Um, but it's always looking at the seating capacity and ticket sales and jersey sales and all those things. And of course, football and men's and women's basketball generates a lot more um, exposure than some of those other sports. Um, but the settlement and the decision by federal judge Claudia Wilkins basically said that all of the athletes should have a piece of that 20.5 million. And I think you have to pay, um, some out to. It has to go out through all the sports. You got to show some sort of way that you're giving money, some of that 20.5 million to all, not to every athlete, because every athlete may not be able to get part of that. But I think you got to show that you're giving out money throughout all your sports, um, and sharing in that money. But just know it's not going to be a lot left for those other sports. They'll get something. It just won't be a huge amount compared to football and basketball players, men's and women basketball. So I just wanted to come on, and just share that, information. If you guys haven't heard, or if you weren't really clear about how to go about it, I just gave you the websites. So if you have a former collegiate athlete, male or female, between 2016 and 2024, they need to go out there and file their claim and file it like ASAP, okay? Because the ruling just came down on Friday. Don't waste time putting your claim in as a former athlete to get your share or whatever it may be, whatever sport you played. Be sure to file your claim and get your share, okay? Do that. And for you current athletes and new athletes coming in, you want to be sure you make yourself aware of what's going on with that. And parents, you need to be sure you get yourself up to speed as well, especially if you got a Division I athlete in your household, male or female, and this new lawsuit has come out, and you want to be sure your athlete, if they're high level on their team, especially in football and men's and women's basketball and whatever other sport, you know, this is why I come on and do what I do. I want to give information, right? And I also want to share about my free webinar that's coming up as well. And I'll be having that. I got to get that out on my website for you guys to register, because I want people to register, because I'm going to dive into more, in some detailed information during my free webinar, but also giving some information about how you can sign up and for more detail and for more assistance to help your athlete understand exactly what it is that they need to do to give themselves more exposure and to help them get prepared and develop. I'll give more information about that and how you can sign up and pay for that service. But initially, this free webinar, I'm going to give some very good information, right? And I'll share with you about some other opportunities from that forward. But the free webinar is coming up this summer. As I've said on many of my live podcasts, you need to get to camps, summer camps at the colleges, okay, and get yourself some exposure. And you got to start early. You got to start in middle school, okay? And they need to do multiple sports. They need to play multiple sports. Now, they can go to a camp, to their one sport if that's what you want to do, as opposed to, but I would do more than one. Um, you know, if you could. But if their major sport or their specific sport that they want to get a scholarship in, you definitely need to get to camp for that specific sport, even though your male or female athlete plays more than one sport. Okay, um, but you need to get them to camp, and so they can be seen by coaches. All right, because like I said, with this settlement, of course, it's going to limit scholarships. As I shared earlier today, I talked to one of the assistant basketball coaches for the men's basketball team, and he mentioned, I just asked him questions like, "Hey, coach, um, how many high school kids did we recruit this year?" And he said none. It's all transfer portal, and they got a foreign student who probably been playing pro ball over in his country when he was 14, 15 years old with grown men, getting developed by grown men. And so when that young man has that kind of opportunity, or young lady has that kind of opportunity, and they're an international player, they're going to be ahead of some of our American players if our American players don't buckle down and get developed and get some training, get some specific training. Um, if basketball is what you want to get it in, as a coach shared with me, if you're not in the top 100, for men's basketball, you're pretty much not going to get a Division I scholarship, right? And so that's why with this free webinar, I'm going to dive into some things, right, on strategy, on how you need to strategize with all the things that are changing, right? There may be some lawsuits and different things that may come down from this deal with this settlement because of the $20.5 million cap that has to get spread out through all the sports, and most of it is going to get eaten up from by football and basketball. We know that, but we know they generate most of the money as well that come through the sports program. Football and basketball success feeds and helps those other sports be able to survive and make it as well with the money that they bring in. Okay, so let's not talk about what's fair and all that stuff, because football and basketball keeps the sports program alive. Okay, with the money that they generate for their institution. So football and basketball helps a lot of other sports be able to still be around and make it. And so it's only right that you give them opportunity to make a little bit more money, right? But I definitely think we should give all the athletes an opportunity to make some money. I don't care what sport they play, they deserve an opportunity to make some of that money, that 20.5 million as well. And so, and I believe that's what's going to happen, and that's what the Major League Baseball executive is going to do through College Sports Commission. That's part of his job, his task with his staff to manage these institutions, these NCAA institutions at all levels: Division I, FBS, Division I, FCS, and Division II, and even Division III. But it's mainly Division I through Division II that brings in this kind of money, because you got the TV deals and all that stuff. Now there are lower division level schools playing on TV that you never saw when I was in college, but you see them now, right? You have an opportunity to see, right? To be seen on TV now because of all the live streaming and all these different things and opportunities that we have in schools and being able to make money because of that, and given the rights of their sports or whatever sport it is to be live streamed. So that's another way for them to make some money, which is great, and it should be. So that's awesome. But yeah, there's going to be some pros and cons to this. Like I said, there's going to be less scholarships available. So that's why you got to get developed. That's why you got to get your kid. You got to invest, and you got to, like with Love the Game 24/7, or coach, or my buddy with Before You Go Pro, with some of the things that he does, and Derek Tatum down there in Georgia with some of the things he does with helping kids with recruiting and developing them, and what Coach Smith and Love the Game 24/7, along with offense defense, who I work with, right? So we got a lot of camps. I'm going to start next week. I'm going to be in Charlotte at offense defense. So if you're listening to this and you're a football athlete and you want to get developed, come to the offense defense. Go to the website o-d.com, right? o-d.com, offense defense website, and get yourself registered, because next weekend, I believe from Saturday to Tuesday, this coming Saturday to next Tuesday, not this coming week, next week. I'll be with offense defense in Charlotte, and then we'll be in Raleigh, and then I'll be in Atlanta, and then I'll be at Myrtle Beach, and then Darlington, South Carolina. So I've got 5 camps coming up from June until July, mid-July, that I'll be busy every week doing some camps to help you young athletes, right? From elementary age all the way up to high school, making sure you're getting developed and giving yourself as much of an opportunity to get recruited and get your education paid for, right? And so coming on here and getting great information. I want your questions and your comments, whether you're watching this live or you watching the video later. Be sure to put your questions and comments out there. You can go to my website, lovethegame247.com, and you can put your contact information in, but you're also going to be able to register for the free webinar coming up. It's not out there yet, but I will be going live and doing different things this week as well. And when I get that finalized for my free webinar that's coming up, and then I'll give more information about from there on the other webinar that I'm gonna I'll give more information about that during the free webinar. That's gonna help go into even a deeper dive about the recruiting process to help your athlete out and the important things that they need to do, from training, right? How to work out, information on how you need to be working out, and how you need to be training. So we're gonna get into all that. So that's what it's all about. But like I said, over the next 4 to 5 weeks, I'll be with offense, defense, working some of the camps there. So I'll be in Charlotte, Raleigh, Atlanta, Myrtle Beach, and Darlington. So yeah, Charlotte, Raleigh, Atlanta, Myrtle Beach, and Darlington over the next 4 to 5 weeks. So guys, give me some questions, give me some comments, whatever it is you need to, get with Coach Smith and Love the Game 24/7. I appreciate you guys joining me. Be sure you help me get to my 1,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. Help me grow. Be sure you invite. Be sure you share this information with others. Okay. And it's all about giving you vital and good information to help you be prepared to get that scholarship, right? And possibly get you some NIL opportunity as well. We can help manage all that stuff as well. So with Coach Smith and Love the Game 24/7. So I appreciate you joining me. I'm looking forward to the NBA Finals tonight. I've been watching some of the College World Series, getting winding down, all these different regionals that are happening. I was watching Miami against the Louisville Cardinals. The Louisville Cardinals pulled it out and beat Miami. So hey, I watched some of that. I watched some of the Women's College World Series and the softball. That's great. I try to watch as much of that stuff as possible, and keep myself abreast on all sports as well, and even the lacrosse and all those different things. I even watch, I'm watching some of the hockey, NHL, all those different things. Even some college, I'll peek at that, or the USA and the world hockey thing and track and field. I keep all. Trayvon Bromell is from my hometown in St. Petersburg. Look like he's healthy. He's running, I think, 9.91 and then a 9.82 or something like that in his 100 meters recently in his races. Hopefully he can stay healthy, and we'll see him, at the next Olympics. And I know he's changed some of his training to be stronger and faster. So looking forward to some of his success. But I keep myself abreast on watching all sports, all things sports, so I can help all you male and female athletes in whatever sport it is that you are participating in, to help you understand how recruiting is the same across the board, on what you need to do to get yourself some exposure and to get out in front of these college recruiters in your sport to help you earn that scholarship. All right. And so that's why I need you to help me with my YouTube. Give me some questions, give me some comments. Go to my website, like I said, lovethegame247.com. Also, you help Coach Smith grow his YouTube channel. I'm over 600, and I want to get to 1,000 or more on my YouTube channel subscribers. So I appreciate you guys, man, taking the time and listening on this NCAA settlement that came down by federal judge Claudia Wilkin. I think it's a great thing, but we got to work through all the hiccups, right? Because there's always pros and cons and everything. But I'm always for the players or the athletes getting compensated some sort of way for the hard work that they put in, for the money that they generate for their institutions, because it's far above and more than what their scholarship is worth. Okay, I know that. All right, being a former college athlete and a former pro athlete. Okay, so I know full well that the time and blood and sweat and tears that I put in the ticket sales and the food sales and the merchandise sales, all that stuff, even at my little Division II school, right? I know I helped generate, and my teammates, we helped generate more than what our scholarship was worth. Okay, um, and we put ourselves on the map during my time as well. We had a lot of great success in putting our school on the map, and they're doing great in the NAIA level as well right now. They're a powerhouse in Morningside College, Morningside University in the NAIA division. And during my time, we were NCAA Division II, the only D2 school in Iowa at the time. But hey, I know that I generated money from my institution, that my scholarship, um, you know, wasn't that much compared to what we helped generate. I'm not saying we did some booming multi-million dollars or whatever, but I know we made good money for our school. You know, the guys that I played with in the sports. I performed in football and track and field. So I said my piece on that. I just want to be sure I got, if you want to, some more clarity on the settlement, put your questions and comments out there, and I'll be glad to do my best to answer them. But as I said, for you former athletes, get to that website, right? Get to collegesportscommission.org, right? And get information about everything. And then you can also get to the collegeathletecompensation.com website, so you can put your claim in, so you can get your money over the next 10 years for you former athletes in whatever sport it is that you participated in. All right, guys, I appreciate you guys joining me, right? Enjoy the Pacers Thunder game tonight. I know I will. I'll be getting with some of my buddies, some of my brothers from church, some of the men. We're gonna get to sports bar and watch the game and enjoy each other and break some bread. So appreciate you guys. Enjoy the game and look forward to the next time I go live. All right, guys. Appreciate you. Have a good evening. Have a good evening.